It's Christmas Day 2001. I fire up my PlayStation 2 and put in a gift I received that morning. Metal Gear Solid 2: Sons of Liberty. Before the gameplay even begins, there's an elaborate opening title sequence, with animated credits and clips from cutscenes throughout the game, all set to the incredible score by Harry Gregson Williams, the composer of films like The Rock, Armageddon, and Enemy of the State. The title sequence is designed by Kyle Cooper, the same guy who made iconic title sequences for Seven, Mission Impossible, and The Mask of Zorro. And sitting there, 14 years old, I think, whoa, this isn't just a game. This is like a movie. Video games have always had a degree of influence from cinema, whether riffing on established movie genres or adapting hit movies into playable form. But technology was always a limitation. Batman Returns, the Super Nintendo game, doesn't actually look much like Batman Returns, the movie. But as the 90s progressed, consoles like the Sony PlayStation and the Nintendo 64 developed groundbreaking 3D graphics, allowing for cutscenes resembling animated movies, sometimes even with voice acting.
Too late for abortions now. Not without the heart of the operation. No!
And from there, each new generation of consoles brought with it massive technical leaps forward. And the gap between video games and movies became increasingly narrow. If you watch this show regularly, you know that I don't really talk about video games here. The one time I did last year, I got angry emails from viewers telling me they were quitting watching the channel forever because I was so offensively wrong about the storytelling in Super Mario games. Look, my life is stressful enough trying to blend thought-provoking film analysis with an unnecessarily complicated ongoing narrative. I do not need the added anxiety of getting millions of gamers mad at me. At least, that's what I used to think. I am not a gamer, obviously, or at least I haven't been in like 15 years. I am extremely out of touch with modern video games. But in the spirit of off-the-cuff, uneducated YouTube commentary, which is most of this platform, what if my ignorance could be an asset? You see, a while back, friend of the channel, the great Jacob Geller, pitched me an idea.
Patrick, you should make a video about cinematic video games.
And since Jacob is a very smart guy, I decided to take his advice. And also, he agreed to appear in the video, so I'm really hoping that gives us a big bump in views. For the past century, cinema has been the world's most popular storytelling medium, as well as the most immersive. It is the ultimate version of Wagner's idea of Gesamtkunstwerk, a work of art that combines all other art forms. And in that 100 years, no other medium has arrived to challenge it, until video games, which, like a boulder coming after Crash Bandicoot, has been rapidly closing in on cinema. Games have become more and more influenced by movies, featuring major movie stars as playable characters, increasingly lifelike graphics that resemble live-action films, and long stretches where you simply put your controller down and watch it. So what do we make of these? Are these games more than just interactive movies? Is the influence of film aiding or hurting their development? And the big question, can video games be cinema? Jacob curated a list of 8 games for me to play, ranging from the obvious, to the indie, to, in his words, the insane. Games that explore different definitions of the word cinematic. They're all games I've never played before, some are ones I've never even heard of before, so I'm going to dive in, play them all, and report my findings.
Cut! That is a wrap on the intro.
Did that look okay?
Crushed it, my main squeeze.
Please don't call me that. So guys, that is a wrap on the year. We are officially on holiday break. So here's my plan. while I'm upstate for Christmas, I'm gonna play all these games, and then when we come back in January, we'll shoot the rest of the episode.
Happy holidays, Patrick. Boy, it sure is nice when things go smoothly.
I know, for once we're actually ahead of schedule. Sorry, one sec. Shit. It says due to an incoming blizzard, my flight is delayed 2 hours. Okay, 2 isn't that bad. Now it's delayed 12 hours. Now 48 hours. Now my departure time is just the laughing face emoji. Hey guys? I think I'm snowed in. Okay, this is fine. So my perfectly timed schedule is ruined. Who cares? It's no big deal. There's no reason to panic. Nobbles, stop panicking. Look, I just have a bunch of extra time on my hands and I just have to find a way to use it wisely. Oh, guys, I have it. If I'm gonna be stuck here for the next 48 hours, I'm gonna play these video games and then get a head start on making the video. Huh?
Best of luck, Patrick. I wish I could help, but I gotta leave now if I'm gonna catch my flight. And my flight's delayed too. Well, if we're stuck here, we might as well bring some holiday cheer. I'll go get the garland.
Great thinking, Emma. I love the initiative. Now, I'm gonna spare the viewing public the chore of watching me play video games for hours. If they want that kind of thing, they can watch Nobbles' weird YouTube channel where he does playthroughs while inexplicably shaking a bunch.
You're referring to my Twitch channel.
I don't think you're using that term correctly, but anyway. We are going to compress all this gaming time using maybe the most important of all cinematic techniques. I'm talking about the montage. But I'm gonna need some help for this. And so, ladies and gentlemen, mostly gentlemen, I've seen our analytics, please welcome acclaimed musical artist, my canonical roommate, and close personal friend of the channel, the wickedly talented Chloe Holgate.
Fire up the consoles, in his hand the controls, you all know his name. He may not be good, but he's doing what he should and playing video games. In his favorite sweater, talking films, he's better than pwning noobs online. Though his flight is delayed, cinema to be played, put his big boy brave face on. Patrick's playing video games. Get good, try getting good. Is Druckmann watching this? I tell you all the time, heaven is a place where views are up. So pour a little Merlot in this cup. He heard you like the train vids, honey. Is that true? This finale, he's trying something new, staring at game over screens for you. Something that you didn't know you needed to. And baby, now you do.
All right, this is looking very festive. Great work, Emma. Let's get to the main event. As I mentioned earlier, Jacob Geller gave us the list of games that we'll be covering today. And in the spirit of gaming, he mailed us some creepy, exposition-laden tapes to provide an introduction to each category, Resident Evil style. And to further the spirit of Resident Evil, Jake, if you don't mind.
I thought Resident Evil was about zombies, not ghosts.
Patrick is gonna get massacred in the comments.
Greetings, Patrick. I'm glad you, like me, still value the VHS. To understand the spread of cinematic gaming experiences, you should start where many gamers do, with some of the most popular games in the world. Games like Uncharted, The Last of Us, and the recent God of War titles have sold themselves on their mature scripts, detailed performance capture, and their frankly staggering level of graphical fidelity. Altogether stranger than these games, but within the same wheelhouse, is Death Stranding, a title directed by an influential figure of your youth, Hideo Kojima. And to round out our first package is a game that, at the time, many saw as a bold new step towards cinematic, narrative-forward gaming. I'm speaking, of course, of Quantic Dream's 2010 title, Heavy Rain. Godspeed, Patrick.
Thanks, Jacob. So, here's our first group, the big AAA games that all of you were expecting. I'm talking about story-driven games that prioritize a linear narrative full of cutscenes presented with super realistic graphics designed to look like live-action movies. The Last of Us is probably the #1 game people think of when they hear cinematic video game. The game looks like a live-action movie. It is bleak and serious as hell. It's very R-rated, and it has an extremely faithful adaptation in the form of an HBO show, one of the most prestigious things you can be in the world of popular media. And I'm just gonna say it, the game is really good. Yeah, how's that for a scorching hot take that is only, let me check my notes, 12 years late. So keep in mind, everybody, that the games I'm playing here are enormously popular and have been discussed and analyzed to death. So probably everything I'm going to say is an ice-cold take that is like 10 years old. If you want to yell about it in the comments, go ahead, but I'm not gonna read it because ain't no one got time for that. The Uncharted games, Naughty Dog's predecessor to The Last of Us, were basically interactive action movies with surprisingly solid acting and writing. But The Last of Us is way more ambitious. This is aiming for real emotional human drama, and it largely succeeds. Like all the games I'm discussing here, it is designed to resemble a live-action movie, with more emphasis on the performances by extremely talented actors than I've ever seen in games before. But Hideo Kojima's Death Stranding takes it to a whole other level by featuring actual famous actors as most of the characters, appearing as lifelike digital versions of themselves. So you play as Norman Reedus and encounter other characters played by the likes of Lea Seydoux, Mads Mikkelsen, and Margaret Qualley, as well as characters with the likenesses of directors like Guillermo del Toro or Nicholas Winding Refn. Kojima's Twitter bio says, quote, "My body is 70% made up of movies." And playing this game, you get it. Beyond just featuring movie stars and major directors, the whole thing is littered with movie references. Like a random item you can pick up somewhere is the original soundtrack for the Dario Argento movie Deep Red. And Deep Red is my favorite Argento movie, so hell yeah, Kojima. One of the most surprising things about these games is that they actually dialed back the moviness a little bit from the last ones I played like 15 years ago. I'm talking about Uncharted 3 or Metal Gear Solid 4. These are all still very much story-driven, but they let more of the story roll out organically during the gameplay, and they keep the cutscenes a little briefer than they used to. It feels like we've mostly moved on from the era where we would put our controller down for 20 minutes when the game just turns into a movie. Like, if you remember, Metal Gear Solid 4, back in 2008, featured 7.5 hours of cutscenes, which made up 40% of the whole game. One cutscene was, I kid you not, 70 minutes long, which is technically a feature-length film. Because it's just on a more advanced, more powerful console, I was expecting Death Stranding to take that even further, but it actually scaled it back. According to an IGN article that breaks down the exact length of the cutscenes in all of Kojima's games, only 15% of Death Stranding is cutscenes. That's some real restraint. What it seems like these game designers realized is that as exciting as it used to be to have video games reach toward being movies, it's always going to be more exciting when we're actually doing something. So the more storytelling that can happen with us actually interacting with the game, the better. The cold open of The Last of Us puts you in control of main character Joel's daughter, who's witnessing the beginning of this zombie apocalypse happening outside her window and on her TV. So instead of stopping the gameplay for a bunch of expository cutscenes, it has you walk around and explore her house while news reports play on the TV and explosions happen in the distance out the window. When you and your dad and uncle get in a car to flee the house, your only control option is to look out the windows all around you, to witness the chaos happening at 360 degrees. It feels like an extension of a long take in an Alfonso Cuarón film, staying in a moment, planting us in a specific point of view, witnessing everything happening around us. But here, it gives us some control. We can choose what we're looking at, but we can't escape it. Cinema has always been about what is in the frame, and this lets us choose what is in the frame. It's simultaneously making us the audience and the filmmaker. We can't change the story, but we have a small degree of control over the storytelling. So God of War, the super serious 2018 reboot of the franchise. The big cinematic hook of this game is that it is all one shot, as in the gameplay transitions directly into the cutscenes, and through the entire game there is not a single edit. Obviously, we have had one-shot movies before. Rope, Russian Ark, Birdman, 1917, and honestly, I'm always a little bit skeptical of them. If we ever make the video about long takes that we announced like a year and a half ago and then had to postpone, I'll go into a lot more detail about this, but basically, as oneers have become increasingly common and popular in modern cinema, the more I have come to find them indulgent and distracting. I think sometimes the technical virtuosity can actually hurt the immersion, which is supposed to be the point of a oneer. Watch out, hot take incoming, but I think both Birdman and 1917 would be better without the one-shot gimmick. Since in both movies, I would sometimes find myself thinking about the camera and what it's doing instead of engaging with the story. But God of War actually executes the same idea much better. Since the entire thing is animated, there is no physical camera, and so at no point was I thinking about how it was being shot. I just accept it and give myself over to the game. And what this approach actually does is create a subjective experience better than most movies are capable of. Most of the game is focused on the relationship between Kratos, the main character, and his son, Atreus. And almost the whole thing is spent looking over Kratos' shoulder at what he's seeing. Like Son of Saul as a super violent, over-the-top action fantasy. In dialogue scenes, we usually don't see Kratos' face. Instead, we see the face of the person looking at him and responding to him, which is usually Atreus. So you instinctively start to care about this kid. You're thinking about how he's reacting to what you're saying. And you always see him from Kratos' perspective, looking down. When you're teaching Atreus to hunt with a bow and arrow, you crouch behind him, placing a hand on his shoulder to guide him, and the game lets you control his shot, creating this literal connection between the player and this usually non-playable character. not to keep complaining about Birdman, but one thing that annoys me in that movie is that the whole thing is one shot, but it's not following the main character the entire time. If the point of the one-take approach was to keep us rooted entirely in Michael Keaton's POV, that would make sense. But sometimes it moves away from him and follows different characters. But God of War actually commits to its single character subjective experience, and it's extremely effective. So I'm declaring right now that God of War 2018 is more deserving of the Best Picture Academy Award than Birdman.
So, are you saying God of War is a movie?
Absolute cinema.
No, guys. Okay, it's not a movie. It's not a movie. It's not that simple. It's complicated. See, God of War can never actually truly be a one-shot game. Simply because of the game design, you often have no choice but to go to the upgrade screen to upgrade weapons or armor, or to look at your various moves and spells, which cuts away from the one-shot presentation of the main game. And because of the game's length, it's basically impossible to play in one sitting. So inevitably, you're going to have to pause it and get up and leave and come back later, creating breaks in what is presented as an unbroken experience. So it's executing certain ideas better than movies, but because of the nature of video games, it can never quite do what it's promising. But anyway, all I'm trying to say is that this subjectivity is maybe the greatest strength of these games. Like, it seems obvious. They're video games, they're interactive, you're controlling a character, you are literally them. But these are actually using the perspective as a key part of the storytelling. The Last of Us and God of War are both about the relationship between the central playable character and a non-playable character who accompanies them throughout the whole experience. And they use devices like the framing of the camera and the moments when the characters interact, whether climbing up a ledge or in combat, to develop that relationship beyond just the scripted dialogue scenes. And then, of course, Death Stranding has its own deeply bizarre version, where you've got a fetus known as a BB that lives in a tank connected to your chest, and you occasionally have to comfort it and take care of it, and at these points the game shifts into a POV shot looking down at the BB, and you have to literally rock the controller to control rocking the BB to sleep. As usual, no one is doing it like Kojima, that maniac. There's a brief moment early in The Last of Us when Joel and Tess are walking through a basement and find a man pinned under some rubble who has just been infected by spores. The game prompts you to shoot him in the head. It's the first time you fired a gun in the whole game. And naturally, following the prompt, you shoot him in the head. But I then immediately found myself questioning my action. Did I have to do that? Isn't it weird how I just casually murdered a man? Is this who I am now? The interactive nature of this scene raises a moral question that hits harder than it would if you were simply watching it. Although it is then kind of undercut as the game progresses, and like most video games, you just murder tons and tons and tons of people because that is the only way to win, including a doctor that is literally impossible not to kill. Maybe the biggest shift since I was last regularly playing video games 15 years ago is the graphics, which have made enormous leaps forward. Obviously, there is a huge range of visual styles in games, especially when you get to Nintendo games or indie games, but the dominant aesthetic in the major AAA blockbuster games, especially the ones I'm playing here, is one of total lifelike realism. These games are basically all presented as one step away from live-action movies. The settings, lighting, and virtual camera work are all imitating cinema. Other than Kratos' larger-than-life physique, there is little to no stylization or exaggeration. The character designs are all aiming for photorealism, with the graphical powers of the PlayStation 5 allowing us to see pores on characters' skin, and every bit of stitching on their clothing. I assume any day now we're going to get a Pac-Man reboot where you can see every wrinkle and fold on that bright yellow skin, and it will be horrifying. The widespread embrace of this aesthetic is weird to me, because despite the motion capture done by actors to perform these characters and their actions, this is still animation. And we've spent the last 20 years talking about the uncanny valley, how virtual people that look too close to the real thing are unsettling. Like these days, when we look back at once groundbreaking animated films like Shrek or Final Fantasy: The Spirits Within, most of us agree that the design of the human characters didn't age very well. And so why is it that in video games, we've all just accepted this as good and normal? Like, isn't it kind of weird that Death Stranding features Norman Reedus, Lea Seydoux, and Mads Mikkelsen playing CGI versions of themselves? What is the ultimate goal here? To eventually make games indistinguishable from live-action movies? Looking at these, you would think Robert Zemeckis' Beowulf was the most popular, influential movie of all time, because that's what these all look like. Is the ultimate goal of this to make the 2009 Gerard Butler movie Gamer a reality? Because we all remember how it turned out there. And by all, I mean the dozens of us who saw that movie. Anytime these games reached a really emotional scene, like in the prologue of The Last of Us with Joel cradling the dead body of his daughter, I just start wishing that I was either watching a live action movie or a regular animated movie, not this odd hybrid. It definitely doesn't ruin the experience or anything, but I keep wondering how we all agreed that this is how games should look. Sorry, one sec, gotta take this.
Patrick, how's the gaming going? I heard you guys are snowed in.
I think it's going pretty well so far. Did you need me for anything?
No, not really. Honestly, I just wanted to be in one of these narrative interludes you always do.
Okay, so you don't feel like this is interrupting the flow of the essay. Maybe just to be safe, we should say some relevant analytical stuff so that viewers don't feel like they can skip this part.
You mean like how photorealism is a death spiral? That pursuing it requires increasingly large teams and ever-lengthening development times, all to produce a game that must sell tens of millions of copies to justify its cost, therefore ensuring they'll always eschew bold design in favor of focus-grouped mass appeal?
Perfect. That's why you're the best in the biz.
Hey, did you talk about Heavy Rain yet?
It's up next. That game is crazy. Why did you make me play it?
I really just thought it would be funny. One sec. Oh man, my flight got delayed.
Well, good luck with that. I'm gonna get back to work. Sorry about that. So, I need to talk about Heavy Rain, the last game I played in this group. Originally released in 2010, a few years before The Last of Us, this was a major earlier attempt to deliver serious cinematic drama in video game form. And guys, this game made me lose my fucking mind. It is so weird. The opening 25 minutes are basically the cold open, and here's what happens. You are a man with a wife and kids. You're an architect who works from home, and the first things you do in the game are you go to the bathroom, and you shave, and brush your teeth, and you even press a button to pee in the toilet. Yes, you literally use your controller to control the electric shaver on your face. Then you take a shower, you get dressed, and you go down to your drafting table and you draw lines on an architectural drawing with a pencil. When your family gets home, you play with your kids. You press a button to kiss your wife. Then later, you're all at the mall and you buy a balloon for your son. Again, this is a video game, and so you are pressing a button to take your wallet out of your back pocket. Then your son runs off and you fight your way through a crowd of people and you see him across the street outside. And when he runs toward you, he gets hit by a car. Cue sad piano music and a shot of his balloon floating sadly up into the sky. I can't overstate how strange this is. This section isn't even a game, it's a life simulator where you just press buttons to do banal tasks, and then it harshly swings into huge melodramatic tragedy. And then after this, the game jumps forward 2 years where you and your wife have clearly divorced, and you pick up your other son, the one who didn't die, from school, and you bring him home where you press buttons to help him do his homework and cook him dinner and tuck him into bed. Also, can I just point out how literally 2 of the 4 games I've played so far feature prologues that end with the main character's child getting killed. Also, I'm realizing that God of War begins when the main character's wife has just died, and in the first hour of Death Stranding, the main character's adoptive mother dies. Like, hey, video games. I know you want to show how serious and mature you are, but maybe just chill out a bit, okay? So anyway, back to Heavy Rain. What this game is attempting is admirable. And I see how this was a big deal in 2010 when mainstream video games were only beginning to reach for emotional complexity. But playing it now, it feels like a teenager's attempt to make serious art. Every time the main character sits down to talk to his surviving son, dramatic piano music plays, announcing to us, "Hey idiot, this is the emotional part now." The actual gameplay, outside of when you get to make a choice that will adjust the course of the story, is pretty tedious. Pressing buttons to open the fridge, and then pick up a bottle, and then take a drink from the bottle, and then put the bottle back, and then close the fridge. Heavy Rain is trying to be an interactive movie with branching narratives, where you can get tons of different potential endings based on your choices. Now, I think that sounds, at the very least, pretty fun, but it would really help if the storytelling were actually good. And this game is also a perfect example of the issue with photorealistic graphics I was just talking about. This game is from at least one generation before the rest of the ones I'm discussing here, so it's not quite as technically advanced, but the graphics are still aiming for the hyper-realistic live-action movie aesthetic with motion-captured performances by actors. And maybe we all thought this looked good in 2010. But now you look at it and you see it reaching for serious emotional drama, but with faces that can't really emote and just look kind of blank and creepy, especially the kids. And like, when characters kiss, their lips don't quite fit together right. So this obsession with realistic graphics just means that a decade later, it looks awkward and dated, while something more stylized from the same era still looks great. The question I find myself asking as I play all of these narrative-driven games is, what is the ultimate form of this story? Not that there is only one peak version of every story, but with these games, I end up approaching each one and wondering how essential it is that this actually be a game. How much would be lost by removing the interactive element and just making it a movie? Putting aside Heavy Rain, which is just not especially good, of the other 3, The Last of Us is maybe the most acclaimed of them all. And I actually think it presents the weakest argument for being a game. Like, don't get me wrong, I like it a lot, I think it's really good. But we do have the HBO show right there, which is telling the same story, and I'm not sure how much is actually lost by removing the interactive elements. The core of it has always been the human drama, the relationship between Joel and Ellie, and not to in any way diminish the performances of Troy Baker and Ashley Johnson, which are excellent, but real live humans are always going to be able to communicate emotion better than hyper-realistic CGI people. Yes, there is the immersion and subjectivity that comes with a game, but how do you weigh those against what you gain from real live-action performers? Man, people in the comments are gonna be mad about that. But then there's something like Death Stranding. I know A24 has acquired the movie rights, and Kojima, the most cinema-obsessed of all the game auteurs, feels destined to be adapted for the big screen. But how do you actually do this? Even more so than Metal Gear Solid, part of the bizarre, demented magic of this game is its unclassifiable place stuck between the worlds of cinema and video games. As Guillermo del Toro puts it,
Kojima's style breaks the barrier between cinema and games.
the insane experience of controlling a digital Norman Reedus and talking to a guy who looks like Del Toro but has a different voice about the little baby in a tank tied to your chest, and then spending a full hour silently walking over a mountain carrying heavy boxes isn't replicable in any other medium. Unlike some Metal Gear games, this is not 40% non-playable cutscenes. So much of Death Stranding is long stretches of quiet and isolation, an oddly meditative experience that is actually about the gameplay, not just trying to mimic blockbuster movies. The weird fit of these elements, like the endless exhausting exposition scenes and the spectacular action set pieces and the surreal fourth wall breaking interactive sequences, make this something that doesn't really make sense in any other form. As much as I enjoyed all these games, well, maybe not so much Heavy Rain, but the other three, I still don't know how to describe them. They all exist in this weird liminal space between cinema and games, and the more I try to define what they are, the closer I get to a minor existential crisis. It's like each new generation of games pushes this uneasy blend of art forms further, and I am kind of at a loss as to how to talk about them.
But Patrick, that's our specialty.
What do you mean?
That uneasy blend thing you mentioned. We do it all the time here on the channel. Like, are we doing video essays, or is this some kind of ongoing serialized TV show? I personally think it's great when we add this stuff to the channel. Remember when you went to India? People loved watching how bad you were at cricket. Or how about the time you solved the mystery of who's killing cinema? Audiences still talk about your Poirot impression. Or how about our Legacy sequel video that was an homage to Legacy sequel tropes, which was riffing on our previous episode that was an homage to Mindhunter. Totally cinematic and not sweaty at all.
Wait, hold up, stop it. Nobbles, what are you doing? This is the season finale, not a clip show.
This is the finale? I thought it was a Christmas special. Maybe it's kind of both.
See? My point exactly.
So does that make us like, I don't know, the Death Stranding of YouTube video essays?
Yes. Maybe? I don't know. That sounds confusing and weird. Either way, I'm gonna make a big batch of Christmas milk. There's one thing I've learned from the holidays, it's the only way to avoid unnecessary arguments is boozy cocktails.
That is a really good idea. So while Emma makes us some drinks, let's put on Jacob's next videotape and hear about the next batch of games. Goes Jake? Roll it.
Okay, look. What are we doing here, Patrick? I mean, sure, I want to get you an education, but I'm sending you the most obvious picks. Those aren't even really the kind of games I'm into. And cinematic doesn't need to mean a sad man with realistically rendered pores, for God's sake. Here's what I'm thinking. You need to see how games outside the AAA space are using cinematic storytelling techniques. First, what remains of Edith Finch, a standout in the somewhat derisively named genre walking simulator. Next up is Florence, a phone game, Patrick, that's a masterclass in show, don't tell. And finally, I want you to play Inside, a side-scroller that also happens to be maybe one of the most atmospheric games ever made. See, these are cool picks. I'm cool.
Exalt your fandom. Live your fashion. The 2025 Patrick H. Willems collection. The ordinary becomes spectacular. The Cinephile's mug. Be bold and unafraid to express who you are. Tell the world, I appreciate Val Kilmer more than you. And finally we give you the Nobbles. You too can have a piece of the icon himself. Available now for a limited time.
Good news, everybody. I am very happy to report that this group of games is doing a whole lot to pull me out of my spiral. All three of these games tell stories in completely different ways, and none of them are trying to replicate the aesthetics and feel of live-action movies like the previous group was. In very different ways, these games all actually have me really excited about this medium and its potential for storytelling. What Remains of Edith Finch is an exploration game told in a first-person view with a teen girl exploring the strange old house that was home to generations of her family. There is no combat here, no points to collect, no upgrading of armor or weapons or any of the usual game mechanics. You can't actually lose. As you uncover old diaries and letters in different rooms of the house, the game takes you into the perspectives of different family members, letting you experience their lives and each of their deaths. And the game switches styles for each of these chapters. Florence is a game that you play entirely on your phone, and it takes literally like 30 minutes to finish. It's less a traditional game than it is an interactive hybrid graphic novel and animated film. It's about a 25-year-old woman dealing with love and her career as the player is prompted to move time forward or solve puzzles to advance conversations. Most of the experience is spent reading and watching, but the game aspects make us feel more connected to the characters. Like when Florence's boyfriend moves in with her and we are prompted to unpack his belongings, rearranging shelves to make room for each of their things and having to decide what goes into storage. Or, spoilers, when they break up and his stuff is packed up again, we have to close up the top of the box ourselves, and giving us that bit of control, letting us decide the exact moment when it is sealed up for good, makes the moment hit even harder. And then there is Inside. I'll just say it right now, this is my favorite of all the games I played for this episode. It's not just the best game that I've played in years, because, as we've established, that really isn't saying very much, but this is one of the best experiences with any piece of media that I've had in years. It's a platforming puzzle game with sci-fi and horror elements that follows what looks like a boy fleeing from men with flashlights and dogs, and as he runs through a forest and a farm and a city and flooded mines, and eventually ends up in a bizarre science research lab. There isn't a single word in the game. There's no dialogue, no text, no exposition. The story is simply what you can piece together with visual context clues. You're never explicitly told who you are or who is pursuing you or where you are, but you get an idea of what is going on and what this world is. The stakes are always very clear. Like God of War, Inside is told in a single continuous shot. A wide shot tracking parallel to the action, with your character always moving laterally across the frame. None of these games are what would traditionally be described as cinematic. When friends asked me what games I was playing for this episode and I mentioned these three, they would usually think for a second and go, "Oh, okay, yeah, I can see that." None of these have realistic graphics. You definitely can't see the pores on anyone's skin. There are no traditional cutscenes. They really don't resemble movies at all. Like I said, Florence is more like a graphic novel, but they use elements and devices from cinema in unique ways. Inside is very much about the power of the wide shot. The game is usually framed with the main character very small in the frame, looking powerless as he's surrounded by these huge environments. Sometimes in the background you can see his pursuers, the beams from their flashlights, their car's headlights, the dogs chasing after you. Again, cinema is about what is and is not in the frame, and any individual frame in Inside is telling a whole story, via light and shadow and composition. The suspense and atmosphere is stronger here than in any of the more traditionally cinematic games from the first group. The developers have clearly studied movies, but they're using that influence to make something that is 100% a video game. What Remains of Edith Finch is largely about death. See the video that Jacob made about it years ago. But it's also about storytelling. When most games' approach to storytelling is simply copy mainstream action movies, Edith Finch is an exploration of how many different ways you can tell a story. Like, one chapter of the game follows a guy who was an illustrator, and it takes the form of a flip book, basically becoming an animated film. Some other stories are pieced together through doctor's letters or even poems. One of the most interesting ones literally has the player controlling a camera, zooming in and out and adjusting the focus to take a picture that will end up telling a story. Maybe the most unique chapter, other than the one about the baby who appears to have telekinetic powers that drowns in a bathtub, takes the form of an old Tales from the Crypt style horror comic that becomes playable as you enter a first-person view, controlling a character in the story. Obviously, first-person view video games have been around for decades. They're one of the most common formats in this medium. And this is an evolution of POV shots that have existed in cinema since the 1920s. There were even entire first-person POV movies as far back as 1947 with the Philip Marlowe movie Lady in the Lake, which isn't great, but is an interesting experiment. But a sequence like this, which is explicitly a horror sequence, is more directly inspired by the lengthy POV shots in John Carpenter's Halloween. And see, what really gives that away is that in this scene, the game literally just uses the Halloween theme, as in like the actual John Carpenter Halloween theme from the 1978 movie. The developers licensed it, and it plays on a loop during the sequence. It's really weird, and while I generally loved most of the game, this one moment took me out of it because it's the one time that instead of subtly using cinematic techniques, it just hits you over the head with a cinematic reference. Like, even Kojima wouldn't do something this obvious. I mention it because that one bit of music is really my only complaint about the game. It stands out because the rest of the game is so unique and doesn't need to fall back on moves like that. The bottom line is, these games are much more successfully themselves because they sidestep the whole cinema video game tension. Sure, they borrow some cinematic techniques, but when they do it subtly, and with their feet proudly planted in the video game category first and foremost. And so now I'm wondering, is that our big problem? Does our channel try too hard to be cinematic when what we should be doing is just making regular, simple, old-fashioned video essays? Like, are we ashamed of what we are?
Nonsense. We've hit the mark from time to time. Remember our trains video?
A man and a train and a man.
Nobbles, I told you we're not doing a clip show.
I'm just saying, that had a fun conceit with some less intrusive features. That was like our Edith Finch.
Yeah, and it was also the biggest failure we've had in years. Oh God, are we actually the heavy rain of YouTube video essays?
Best not to dwell on these things, especially around the holidays. Here, a tall glass of Christmas milk. Ghost Jake, roll the tape. I'm sure whatever game we have next will make us all much happier.
Patrick, you're still not getting it, Patrick. People use cinematic when they mean pretty, don't they? They mean it as a compliment. They mean it should win an Oscar. That's not what it means, Patrick. That's not what it means at all. Kane and Lynch 2 Dog Days. That's my last game for you. You want cinematic? Fine. Burn your eyes out on all that cinema.
Well, this is the section that Jacob labeled the insane. And I can confirm he was correct. Kane and Lynch 2, Dog Days, a sequel to a game that I've never played and don't know anything about, is an unpleasant experience. Maybe deliberately an unpleasant experience? It's an action thriller about two American criminals in Shanghai dealing with the fallout of an arms deal gone wrong. It opens with these guys tied up and shirtless in a bathroom as someone tortures them by slicing their torsos with a knife, and then jumps back in time 2 days to see how they got there. As you can see, it's a really chill game. The title characters are pieces of shit, and the story is relentless violence and nihilism. The opening mission has the two of you pursuing this guy through the streets as he drags his naked girlfriend with him. And as you get caught up in shootouts, various bystanders die. One of the main characters accidentally shoots and kills this guy's naked girlfriend, and then the guy takes out a knife and kills himself. Like I said, super chill game. But you know what? That's fine. I am okay with nihilism and unlikable protagonists. What is really unique about this game, though, is the presentation. See, the entire thing, the cutscenes and the gameplay, are presented not like a regular Hollywood movie, but instead in a documentary cinema verite style, all shot from the point of view of an unseen camera operator with an early 2000s camcorder. So the entire thing, like even the gameplay, is presented with a handheld shaky camera. There is digital noise in the dark parts of the frame, fluorescent lights cause bluish flares. When you sprint, the camera gets shakier and blurrier. Blood splatters on the lens. Now, I would be lying if I said this was not a fascinating choice. Mashing up a shooter game with a crime thriller with a documentary aesthetic, I'm pretty sure that has never been done before. But what I can't seem to reconcile is the camcorder presentation of the entire thing. Like, if this was not a video game, if this same story was just a movie, there's no way that it would be made like this. It is written and performed like a Hollywood action movie, but it looks like a home video. Plenty of movies in the early 2000s experimented with early digital cinematography to create a distinct aesthetic. There were Lars von Trier movies and 28 Days Later and Michael Mann's Miami Vice, but this isn't replicating the aesthetic of any of those movies. It is truly meant to feel like a human camera operator is following and filming the entire thing. Like, it doesn't even cut to different angles. Every cutscene is presented as one long shot, with the camera sometimes stumbling or pointing at the floor or just not catching the action well. And what makes it awkward is that beyond the camera, the rest of the game doesn't have the realistic naturalism of a documentary. The writing and acting feel like a Hollywood movie.
We're getting too old for this.
The action is over the top in an action movie way. So why does it look like this? Like, the opening shot of the game is a shot of a camcorder, but it's being filmed with another camcorder. So what is this, like an idiot bro film student trying to do a De Palma homage? The game is already full of human ugliness and ugly violence, and this just adds another extra layer of ugliness to the whole experience. The constant shaky camera work even makes looking at the screen a slightly nauseating experience. And like Heavy Rain, it has that late 2000s era attempt at super realistic graphics and character designs, which now just look dated and awkward. The gameplay is already repetitive and generally not great, the characters are mostly annoying, and the whole presentation just makes the experience unpleasant to look at. It's one thing if the whole aesthetic were in service of saying something, some larger thematic idea, but mostly it feels like someone said, hey, what if we did this? And then never really interrogated why. So the pieces just don't fit together well. It's one thing for a game to try to feel like a movie, but this is trying to feel like the wrong kind of movie. I would find myself wondering, who is this camera operator? Why are they filming this? How have they not gotten shot yet? It makes me wish they had gone further and made the whole thing basically a documentary filled with interviews with the characters. But instead, it's just a really unpleasant aesthetic on top of an already unpleasant game. It's almost trying to alienate anyone who might play it. In attempting to be something more than a video game, it instead becomes something like an act of aggression toward its players. Hey guys, we're not like the Kane Lynch 2 dog days of YouTube video essays, are we?
Definitely not.
And anything that might irritate an audience, most people probably don't remember anymore anyway. You know, like all those drop narrative threads from the last few years of the show. Matt being a movie star, you sharing an apartment with Chloe?
Why would you bring those up?
Or Chloe's unfinished musical, or my sitcom, Bright Lights, Big Novels. Hey, remember that time you found a dead body with a suitcase full of money? Whatever happened to that?
I don't know, they seemed like fun ideas at the time.
Emma, bring in some Christmas cheer. I'm losing him.
Oh God, We are the Kane Lynch 2 of YouTube video essays.
Should I put this on?
No!
Emma, more garland!
Jesus Christ. Just roll another clip while I get this shit off me?
Oh, Patrick, that's not worm juice. I just told you that to get you out of your head. It's nothing more than simple Windex.
For generations, cinema, specifically live-action cinema, has been viewed as the ultimate storytelling medium. These days, animated movies, even when basically perfect and beloved by everyone, are still remade in live action as if they're not complete until they reach that form. In the early 2000s, comic books began emulating blockbuster cinema, with the panels drawn to resemble widescreen frames. In the age of streaming television, it became a cliché for showrunners to describe their season as more like an 8-hour movie. And video games, well, everything we've been saying for the last 40 minutes. And look, these mediums going quote-unquote cinematic can be fun. I love comics drawn by Brian Hitch, but I can't help but wonder, is the best use of an artistic medium to try to be another one? Has this been a fad that people will inevitably grow tired of? On the one hand, the finale of Stranger Things was just literally released in movie theaters, blurring the line between cinema and TV as much as possible. But also, the most acclaimed show of the last year or so has been The Pit, a show that is proudly a TV show first and foremost, produced on a regular annual schedule the way TV used to be. But as for video games, I have no idea where the medium will go. As game development timelines and budgets get longer and bigger, with graphics getting unnervingly close to total photorealism, it seems hard to imagine it can go much further in that direction. Has the cinematic video game reached its apex? Can this line blur even more? Is the ultimate endpoint of all of this a world where hyper-realistic video games replace movies?
This episode was supposed to be a nice, fun, chill way to close out the season. And instead, all it's done is raise impossible, maddening questions. What is a video game? What is cinema? How much is acceptable for mediums to overlap while still retaining their identity and the qualities that define the art form? Like, if a movie were to stop for 10 minutes so you could read 1,500 words of text on screen, how would we all feel about that? Probably not great. And this just keeps making me think about this show. Look, I've always known this was a weird in-between with non-fiction media analysis mixed with a serialized scripted TV show. We've been doing it this way for years. We've built a very healthy audience that generally seems to like it. I have fun doing it, and yet clearly I've still been insecure about all of these choices the entire time. I'm still not sure if what I'm doing works. And I'm working in a medium that's even younger than video games. This online video essay still hasn't really been defined. I don't know what the rules are. Are these episodes going to make sense to people who watch them 2 years from now? Does that even matter? What am I even doing here? No, I'm not gonna answer that right now. And right now, I am stressing out over all of this at a time when the medium and the industry that I have built a career discussing and am trying to work in seems to be at a major point of crisis. I mean, I know we made an episode 2 years ago questioning if cinema was dying or not, but let me tell you, just in the past few weeks, it seems a lot closer to death than it did back then. One of the handful of major Hollywood film studios appears to be getting swallowed by another one, creating a monopoly that is blatantly illegal, but hey, that might just not matter because the world is terrible and our government is run by the worst people alive.
Patrick, I think you meant to hang up. I've been listening this whole time.
Sorry, Jacob, I'm having a bit of a moment right now. Hey, did you hear the news about the Walt Disney Company investing $1 billion into OpenAI to let it license their IP to create endless, horrible, corporate-approved slop?
Wow, that sucks.
Yup, it sure does. Happy holidays. So I don't know. Maybe video games have the right idea. Maybe cinema is going away, and it's video games that are going to take its place. Maybe Roblox and Minecraft are the new Citizen Kane and The Godfather, and I just gotta learn to deal with that. Remember back in 2012 when Annapurna Pictures came on the scene? Founded by Megan Ellison, daughter of billionaire Larry Ellison, who used her family's fortune to fund exciting movies from auteur directors like Paul Thomas Anderson, Spike Jonze, Catherine Bigelow, and Harmony Korine. At the time, it seemed like she might be the savior of cinema. And then Annapurna basically collapsed, and the one part of the company that seems to be doing well these days is Annapurna Interactive, the game publisher that has released multiple games that I've discussed in this episode, like What Remains of Edith Finch and Florence. And those are really good games. And now, in 2025, Megan's brother David Ellison seems to be leading the charge to dismantle cinema, buying Paramount Pictures this year, and as I shoot this, attempting to stage a hostile takeover and acquire Warner Brothers to merge the two studios. It is crazy to me that this one family has turned out to be so important to modern cinema. One sibling trying to make it better, and the other, not so much. And now, maybe the real sign of the times is Annapurna, showing us that we should just give up on movies and embrace video games as the future. But I don't think I'm ready to do that yet. Movies have meant so much to me for so long, and yes, I know there are way more serious issues in the world. Like, did we ever even get Coney? But I don't know. I still think that movies matter. I'm sorry, guys. This should have been a nice, chill way to pass some time while we're all snowed in. And instead, I've turned this into an incredibly self-centered existential spiral. I just don't really know what I'm doing with my life.
And you'll probably be sick soon?
Why?
I just found out the milk expired last week.
You guys are still here?
We're just playing video games for the holidays.
And having a total existential crisis.
Patrick, relax. It's the holidays. Lights, please. You see, the holidays are all about freaking out. The end of the year is a perfect time to look back and wonder, so what I accomplished this year good enough? Should I be doing more? Will my family understand? What am I leaving behind for future generations? Well, happy holidays.
And in the meantime, Patrick, I'm still here as your main squeeze. And by that I mean, I'm here for you if you feel like you need a hug.
Honestly, a hug would be nice.
Well, folks, that's our season. And to add some much-needed gaiety to this downbeat little moment, maybe it's time to hear from this channel's Ghost of Christmas, whatever the fuck I'm supposed to be. Dave went home and wondered if his decision to host the Patrick H. Willems show from the Nebula office had been a grave misjudgment. Hey, remember this guy? Well, he's around. I don't think we ever mentioned it, but his name is Mike. Emma went to Las Vegas, won 10 grand at blackjack, and then blew through all her money riding the Slotzilla zipline. They regret nothing. Matt didn't reply to our emails asking him to be in this episode, but we hear he's doing well. Nobbles the Content Gobbler returned to Arcturus for the holidays, only to find Rathbone the Vortex Stomper had slaughtered half his family and stolen the Solarium Ring in an attempt to destabilize the political climate of the Nightspore Galaxy. Nobbles successfully reclaimed the ring after defeating Rathbone in a protracted game of full-contact doopie ball. He was crowned the new Arcturan Emperor and awarded 3 gumdrop buttons. Because, as we all know, content gobblers are made of gingerbread. Patrick went home and was sick for a couple days from all the curdled milk he drank. But he got some rest and keeps telling us he's doing fine. He's fine. He's totally fine. And as for me, well, I'm dead, so who cares? Happy holidays, you filthy animals.
So in this episode, I would say that I gave, at most, mildly spicy takes about video games. But video games are famously a subject that people online can be really not chill about. Being a person on the internet who analyzes media for a living isn't exactly a dangerous job, but it is one where you're constantly aware of the threat of things like doxing and harassment. As crazy as it sounds, sharing an opinion about something like, let's say, Star Wars, can have major consequences. Which is why I've been using Delete Me, our sponsor for this episode. See, there are these things called data brokers, these insidious companies whose entire business is collecting and selling your personal data collected from government public records, your online signups, or your social media accounts. This is information like your name and home address and phone number and even banking information. And the data brokers don't just do this for people with a professional online presence, they do it for literally anyone, which is what leads to endless robo-spam calls, phishing schemes, or even identity theft. Delete Me works to reduce the risk of your information falling into the wrong hands, so they scrub it from hundreds of data broker sites across the internet and then actively monitor those sites to make sure it stays gone. So if you want to help protect your privacy and keep your personal info safe, you can get 20% off of all Delete Me consumer plans by going to joindeleteme.com/Willems and then using the code Willems. So a big thank you to Delete Me for sponsoring this episode. And again, you can get 20% off at joindeleteme.com/Willems and use the code Willems.